Yeah, so the concept of the channel, as I tried to explain in the Cacao chat, is sort
Hmm.
of short videos. The key idea is really for people to present their projects and what they've been up to. So could you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your background?
Yeah, my name is Ravi Pandit. I am originally from India. I have been working in marketing and in the sponsorship industry for roughly around a decade now. And I came to Korea actually, or South Korea in 2021 to pursue my master's degree. And from my master's degree, I thought, hey, why don't we start a company here? And yeah, and that's where the journey has brought us so far. So I'm currently working on my
Awesome.
startup. Yeah.
And so we met in person at the COEX, like it was a startup, was it
Yeah.
intellectual property fair, something like that?
Yeah, I think
So
so. Yeah.
are you still working on the same project? And
Mm.
what is that project?
Yeah, so the name, I think it's the same project, but I think definitely certain nuances of the project has changed. But I think at that time, the project was about building a community for foreigners to kind of ease up their lifestyle here in South Korea. And I think the mission or the vision of the project still has not changed. And actually the project vision has gotten bigger, but we need to start in incremental steps, if that makes sense. I'm sure we're going to discuss the project in length, but that's the best way to put it. Yeah, I think it's the same project.
Okay. What's the name of the project?
So the name of the project is called Konnect with a K for Korea. And well, I think it's very common, when someone decides to go to a foreign country like Korea, you have certain expectations when it comes to the accessibility for the foreigner in Korea. And myself, when I came here in 2021, there was just so many challenges which I didn't expect to face. And I think that the most basic response from a foreigner is, okay, well, there's these problems. What's the best solution? Ignore, avoid. So, for example, like, let's say maybe I want to try a Korean dish, right? But I'm a little bit scared to go to a restaurant and talk to somebody. So, what do? I just avoid. We just get through life. And then I think there just came a point where I was like, okay, well, you know what? What about if I want to stay here? Then the solutions need to be, I guess, adapted to me, right? And so that's when this entire project took shape. That okay, what is the challenges that I face as a foreigner? Okay, well, here's few. Okay, well, now let's start asking other foreigners like myself, well, what are the challenges that you're facing? Okay, now I have a bunch of people with opinions and the needs that they think is required. And then based on all of these different opinions, then you go around and you start to build a project. That's really what Konnect is about. It's about actually making Korea feel like your home, where you don't have this avoid mentality. You have kind of
Hmm.
assimilation within the Korean society.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds awesome. And so how does it take shape from the final user, like from the
Mm.
foreigner's perspective? Like he logs in to your
Yeah.
platform and he kind of asks the community a question
Well, I mean, I can show
perspective.
you a small demo. Of course, it's not finished at all, but I would be very happy to actually show you just a second. I think in short, what we're trying to do, there's many layers to this. I want to call it this project, right? So there's many layers to this project, but everything I think stems from one thing, which is that whenever you want to go to anything unknown, you have questions. So the basic premise is that you should be able to find answers to your queries. So this is what we're trying to develop now. It's probably the first AI smart engine which is personalized for Korea. So what does that mean? So for example, let's say that I have a question, right? So what is the basic steps that we take right now? Let's say I have a question. Okay, so first I go on Google and I type in something. Okay, if there's some website where some person has written about that specific question or topic, you'll probably get some answers, right? Then the most common way of finding an answer is that you go onto a social networking platform, maybe like Facebook. So you first log into Facebook, you join a group where you think you might find the answer, you put a request to join the group, you write your question, and then you pray to God that someone answers that question, right? Now, in theory, it sounds good. right? But in reality, it's actually not, because maybe your answer gets you receive an answer to your query, let's say in a few seconds. That's highly unlikely. And also the chances of a question or of a repeated query is a lot. So then I thought, hey, you know what? Why don't we create this search engine? So for example, I mean, we have some examples here. So let's say if I was to, I'm from Bangladesh, or maybe I'm craving a Bangladeshi cuisine, right? So I say, where is my nearest restaurant? Now, the great thing about this search engine is that it's going to give you an answer instantly. Like that's what we want. We want instant answers, and instant answers which have already been asked before somewhere on some social networking platform. You'll find the answer here. And if, let's say, you're unable to find the answer, then the question will be relayed out to the community. So you don't need to go and log in. You don't need to go and find the right group. You don't need to go and find the right person who faces the same issue as you. We will do that connection by ourselves, hence the name Konnect. And so just to give you an example, this is why I call this a smart search engine. It's because it's not only about getting your answers. Why it's smart is that, for example, let's say if I say, what is the nearest Bangladesh restaurant? Here, as you see, obviously this is still in development, but why it's smart is that, it will automatically pick up your location. It will show you where these restaurants are. And the greatest thing is that maybe I can filter the response as well. So maybe I want out of these restaurants, which have been liked the most by Bangladeshis, for example, let's say, right? And then once you hit enter, it's going to filter out your responses even more. So it's only these two restaurants which have been liked by Bangladeshis, right? That's the direction that we're heading in. And it's not only that, it's just so much more. Any kind of basic utility that you need, you'll find here. Find a phone number for a cafe, make me a 30-minute therapy. So this is also like a call to action search engine, right? Which is very useful because, as a foreigner, we don't know these things. So we need to have certain solutions. A system that I personally am a fan of that we're making right now is this K Assist. The probably for me the only word, I mean, now I know many words or many vocabulary words in Korean apart from 안녕하세요. What's interesting is that, this function of K Assist, you can now make a call to any service or any location that you want in Korea, and there will be kind of like this interface where I can speak in English, and then an AI machine will relay the message in Korean, and then vice versa, which I think is much needed. So yeah, I mean, this is just a very, very brief, I guess a brief demo. I don't know if that was even a demo, but it's in development right now. It's completely tailored for foreigners, and I think it's going to be very useful. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. And I also really like that when you logged into the software, I immediately understood, like intuitively, how it worked. So I think that's
Hmm.
really good because I mean I've heard a lot of startup pitches in Korea seems to be around helping foreigners, but this is kind of like the first time I see it, and I'm like, yeah, I can see myself actually using that, because a lot of the other solutions are like more like forums or more like less
Hmm.
intuitive and less logical. But yeah, I really like that it looks like a portal and you go on there, you type in
And you
what you
get it.
want, you get
I'm
it
very
really
glad to
quickly.
hear
Yeah,
that. I'm very
that's really
glad to hear
cool.
that because you're the probably one of the first end users to actually see our first level, development. And again, this might spark a little bit of controversy. I've also heard the same, in Korea when I was developing this, and then, we go to these startup competitions and then we pitch our project, right? And not the first response, but one of the first responses that I receive is that, oh, I know someone who's making this. Oh, I know somebody who's doing this. And when I ask them, okay, where is it? And then there's no response because no one
Mm.
knows. And then secondly, and I completely believe this, I've heard that a lot of Korean startups are trying to build it. No offense to the Koreans, but how can a Korean understand what a foreigner is going through? Maybe if they're making an application of how Koreans feel when they go to a foreign country, that makes sense. But I think that understanding what the foreigner is going through in South Korea, I think that I'm not saying that I need to make this application. I'm saying a foreigner needs to make the application. And that's when even when we're kind of designing this interface, the interface should be is that it should be designed for a foreigner, right? Which means it should be super simple.
Yeah.
We don't, we're already spending our
Yeah.
thousands of dollars when we're moving to a country or thousands of dollars when we're spending on tourism. And now I'm brought to a platform which is not even designed for me. It's still designed to give me information, but
Yeah.
maybe I don't want information, I want solutions. And so that's how we're trying to design
Yeah.
this to find to help people find solutions.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely agree. How's the development side of things going? Are you getting some sort of help? And on that, have you succeeded in getting some support, like financially, through like these different startup programs in Korea? How's that side of things going?
Um, well, so in short, our developer, his name is Jason Head from the US. He has almost a decade of experience in this kind of building these AI technologies, which is great. So he's the one who's going to be developing our platform. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that I think two things. The first thing is that, South Korea really does have a great entrepreneurial ecosystem for Koreans. And no pun intended, like that's really what it is, right? And so I think for a foreigner to receive funding, it's definitely plausible. I'm exploring that avenue. I've applied to a few events. I've made it to the final rounds. Unfortunately, I haven't been selected yet. So I think the overarching message that I is that to myself and for maybe other people who are watching this is don't give up, just keep trying. So I'm actively trying to raise some, I say pre-seed or seed funding for this project. I think as I mentioned this, at least in my pitch deck, is that one of the reasons why we want to raise the money, of course, is because of development, but it's also because, we're not dedicating full time into this project because we're also working other jobs or other assignments, right? So that kind of, I think, hinders the development of the product that we would like, and we don't invest as much time as we could. So yeah, so I mean, I think I'm very hopeful because of the responses that I receive from, fellow entrepreneurs and from fellow investors. Actually, they show a lot of promise in the product. So I wish hopefully in a few months I could update you on whether, a funding comes our way. But yes, but I
For
am
sure,
actively
yeah. Let's
applying to programs and
yeah,
and seeing what works.
for sure. Let's have a catch up once you receive the funding. It'll be very interesting to see how it goes
Yeah,
and
it would be.
everything.
And I think, again,
Yeah,
for the people who watch this video as well, I mean, one thing that I can say, and this is something that I've learned so far, because, pitching at, let's say, a government funding event versus pitching to a VC, completely different worlds. And,
yeah,
I think one of the solutions or one of the things that I have learned from these two different, I guess, pitching environments is that when you're pitching to a VC, make sure that your idea is very small. So for example, like let's say, when I showed you the website, there's so many layers going on. Maybe to design the whole layout of the website will take a few years and maybe a dozen of, or maybe a handful of developers. So when you're pitching to a VC, be very realistic, see how many people you have in your team, and then what is in the least amount of time, what can you build? Right? Think about it like this. Like, let's say you have 1 month and you need to launch something in the market. What is that one feature that you can launch? So I think the mindset for me personally has really changed when I'm pitching to a VC, and I can only learn this when I put myself out there, right? So I think like if you look at rejection as like, oh man, I got rejected from this. Okay, time to give up now. Well, I mean, that's not a startup. Like, take every event as a learning curve. And when I'm saying this to everyone, I'm saying it to myself as
yeah,
well. Yeah, just be self-motivated and just keep trying.
yeah. Completely agree. All right, great, Ravi. So I think we can conclude like on a final question, which is kind of a general question I ask people I interview. Is there any specific tool or method that you could share with the viewers of this video that could like tell us a bit about how you organize your work
I don't
and
know. I
then
mean, I think I'm like an early stage entrepreneur or startup. My when I heard this question, the first response that came is that if you're a startup and you need this tool, you're probably doing something wrong because, I mean, the
mm,
volume of information that for which you would require that, I don't know. I would be a little bit confused, like, oh, why does this person need this software? I mean, is he doing that many things? And if the answer is yes, I'm doing that many things, probably you're going to fail. So my first response
Mm,
is like, yes, it's good to have these productivity or these kind of softwares to help you. Yes, for me personally, I do think that Google Calendar helps. Only reason is because, let's say if we have a meeting at a certain time, it's good to keep track of those things because sometimes you may miss it because, sometimes you're very engrossed in the task, right? So for that, I think so. Other softwares for me personally, because from the marketing end, I think that I really like Canva. That's something that I really use for making pitches. For me, it's very user friendly. So yeah, definitely. I mean, that's kind of something that we use. Of
mm.
course, I guess any kind of video conferencing platform. So I use a lot of Zoom, a lot of Google Meet when interacting with people. I think that sometimes helps. But I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, there are other softwares out there as well where which I hear people use, but and maybe this is not the answer that maybe you're looking for, or maybe the viewers are looking for. But for me personally speaking, if you need to use one of those softwares when you're such an early stage startup, you're doing something wrong.
That's interesting.
So I can give another good example. This is a very good example actually. Last week I had an unexpected meeting with the congresswoman from South Korea. They heard that I was making this project for foreigners and they wanted to have an immediate meeting. So actually the website that I showed to you was prepared in just a few days.
Any final message, or you good
Don't
good
give
to
up.